Hey guys, welcome back to Screaming for Horror. I hope everyone's keeping safe out there. My name is Rain, and thanks for tuning in. In today's video, I would like to share some of the most blood-curdling night terror episodes, part 1. But as usual, before we start, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more upcoming creepy and scary content. A night terror can be truly terrifying, constantly turning from side to side, not being able to wake up from whatever or unable to shake off whoever's creeping right in front of your face while experiencing the worst of the worst. And of course, the lack of sleep is enough for someone to go mad. Considered by many professionals as a sleeping disorder, while other people think that it has to do with some sort of supernatural occurrence or think that they're being haunted by something in particular. Millions of people all over the world suffer from this frightening phenomenon known simply as sleep paralysis or the old hag syndrome. I found some people online that have shared their most personal night terror experiences, and here's a few of them. Number 1. Dreaming of my aunt. I hear my back door being forced open. Lying on the couch, I can't stop myself from hearing hurried footsteps stomping the tile in the kitchen, then the hardwood floor in the dining area, getting closer to where I am in the living room. I can't move. I can't even yell out. I manage to regain consciousness at the last possible moment before I likely suffocate due to my sleep apnea. This happens about 50 to 70% of the time. I pass out drunk on the couch most of the days, but if I sleep on my back, I know someday I'm going to die like that. Not from an actual intruder, but dreaming of my aunt. Number 2. I still don't believe. For the record, I have zero belief in the paranormal, and I believe what I'm about to tell you is simply a product of the amazing human brain. I understand if other people think otherwise, and it doesn't mean that this whole ordeal hasn't creeped me out, because it has, and it still does. I work overnight at a funeral home. I babysit the place by myself all night. If someone croaks, I'm there to answer the phones and dispatch someone for the body, clean up a bit, and get things ready for the funeral the next day. Even with my few duties, I end up with a few hours to kill every night. I'm not supposed to sleep on the job, but with that being said, sometimes I do. I will either doze off at the desk or I will go to one of the couches and take a power nap. Other than the handful of bodies, I'm alone all night long. Weird thing is that my night terrors are pretty common for me when I fall asleep at work, since rarely, once in a while, someone shows up at the funeral home unannounced. I think it's the reason I have them, since I rarely have them at home. When this first started, I would hear music. I would find myself lying there with my eyes wide open, and I would begin to hear music loudly and vividly. It was always Christian gospel music, modern stuff like what you hear on the radio nowadays. It always sounded like it was coming from inside my skull, particularly in my mouth area. I know, it sounds stupid, but at one point I looked up the lyrics on Google with no results. Then the weird things started to happen. Sometimes I would think I heard someone walking towards me from one of the hallways. Fearing that an employee had shown up, I would always find my night terrors and wake up, but the sound of footsteps were gone. After that, I would feel foolish for getting tricked by some dream. The sounds and music went on for months. One night, I was really tired and napping on the couch. I slipped into my state, as I call it, and heard the footsteps again, so I decided, screw it. I'm not gonna get tricked again for the millionth time. But to my complete surprise, a man came in walking from the direction of my head, coming into my field of view and stopping next to me. There was nothing memorable about him, just a white male wearing a normal dress shirt and slacks, except for one thing. His face and head were obviously there, but I wasn't able to see anything. Then, to my horror, he reached out and poked me in the forehead and let out some kind of sinister chuckle, more like if he was laughing at me. Then I forced myself to wake up. The second time was even worse, but this time I saw a woman wearing a creepy rubber clown mask and holding a gun at her side, staring at me. Of course, but as soon as I woke up, she had vanished. I still keep seeing the man, the woman, and now what I think it's a little boy. I don't believe there's nothing paranormal about it like I had mentioned, but nonetheless, it still creeps me out. Number 3. Angels and Demons. I have a few sleep paralysis / night terror demons and some sort of guardian angel. The demon ones are usually shadowy figures standing over me or my bedroom door. One of the worst ones was when I was lying on my side with my back to the bedroom door, and I felt someone got into my bed behind me under the covers to put their arm around my waist. Then it felt like they were cuddling with me. I could feel their breath on my neck. It felt like they had cuddled me for about half an hour. At this time, I'm trying to show that I'm not panicking because it feels like I'm getting cuddled by a skeleton with claws. It had been only about the second or third time I've experienced this, so I nearly had a heart attack when this thing started moving closer to kiss me behind the ear. Worst of it all, it whispered, "Not yet. You're not ready yet. I'll come back for you when you are." To me, it sounded disappointed and excited at the same time. It felt like it was silently telling me that I was coming back for me when I die. It scares the living hell out of me. My guardian angel, on the other hand, is a different experience. I've been going through this on and off for about 18 months now. At this point, I can usually tell right away when it happens. At first I thought it was a usual demon thing beside my bed, but I looked carefully and I realized I could see a man kneeling next to my bed smiling at me. It wasn't a creepy smile. It was more like a parent coming to check on their kid. He looked like he's dressed in like 50s style suit and hat. He doesn't say anything to me, although I get the sense that he's letting me know everything is alright, and I feel he looks after me, so that makes me feel a little bit safer. Number 4. My nightmare has just begun. This happened when I was younger, but I still remember this vividly as if it were yesterday, and for obvious reasons. My recurring night terrors began when I was about 8 years old, when out of nowhere I started to get them, and of course I was a kid back then, so I thought they were pretty normal, until I started telling my parents that my night terrors were hurting me. I would dream that I was walking on the street, heading towards an ice cream truck that was parked across my house, but every single time I would cross the street, my legs would start feeling like noodles, and I was stopped in the middle of it since I wasn't able to move. Suddenly, out of nowhere, dark skies would start to roll in, and it would start to rain heavily. I would look up, and the ice cream truck would be gone. It's isolated and dark, and out of nowhere, a car appears out of thin air and hits me, propelling me into the air, and then I disappear. When I would open my eyes, still in my dream face, I'm all alone sitting in a wheelchair, completely paralyzed. I had that recurring terror for about 6 years in a row. Not every night, and you might think it wasn't a terror, but for me, it really was terrifying. I don't know if it was some sort of sign or coincidence. I'm currently 26 years old, and a year ago, I got hit by a car on a dark and rainy day. I don't remember seeing an ice cream truck when it happened, and I stopped having those dreams so long ago, but I feel like my nightmare has just begun. Number 5. Sharing everything. When my husband and I got married, we were in our 20s, and he had mentioned he had suffered from night terrors since he was in his teens. Back then, there weren't such thing as cataloging this as trauma or even sleep studies. My husband just thought that they were regular nightmares. We are in our 50s now, and all these years that we've been together, I've always helped him get through them. Whether it's waking him up to give him some herbal tea to calm him down, or even staying up late at night, I would do anything for him. Wouldn't you do the same for the one that you love? One day we were having dinner, and I decided to ask him about the terrors. He had always refused to talk about them since he had thought that by talking about them, it would trigger them even more so. I respected his choice, and I figured he would tell me when he was ready. But that day I asked because he had been having them for about 2 weeks straight, which usually were about twice a week. So I love him with all my heart, but I was exhausted. After telling him, "Look, maybe talking about them would actually help since you've always been so reclusive about the subject." "I don't think it's the best idea," he replied. But like an idiot, I kept pushing. I regret asking, and now it's too late. He told me that it was the same thing every single night. An alien-like creature pacing back and forth on the porch, talking gibberish to himself. He was able to see him through his window. Then the next second he was pacing back and forth, but this time doing the same thing inside the room. Then the creature would stop dead in its tracks, turn to look at my husband, and with lightning fast speed, he would suddenly be hovering over him, touching his head, and becoming even more creepier and impatient, because as much as he would talk gibberish to my husband, he wouldn't understand him, and at the same time, he was frozen in fear. It sounds creepy, but not entirely scary, was my reply. What? He got up from the table upset at my comment, and that night, we slept in separate rooms. I was deep asleep when suddenly in my dream, I see my husband in his bed, looking at what he had previously told me. Then that creature thing got off of him, came towards the doorframe where I was standing. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. All I wanted was to wake up. Ever since then, I get the terrors now, and I go through what my husband goes through. I can't help him much anymore. I'm trying to figure out what the creature is saying. Maybe if I understand him, he might just go away. I've heard of the phrase, "until death do you part," and how beautiful it is to share anything and everything with your partner. But this is not exactly what I had in mind. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have a ghostly experience, a close encounter, or want to share any photos or videos of strange phenomena, feel free to send us an email to screamingforhorror@gmail.com, and your story could be featured in one of our future videos. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Subscribe and follow us on our Facebook page for more. And remember, until next time, sweet screams.